Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We're in Long Beach today. We are joined by Steve Bradford. He was a member of the California State Assembly, now a candidate for the California State Senate. The seat currently held by Isidore Hall, who is running for Congress, so the seat is vacant, and you are running for it. And how is the race going?
It's going great. It's more work than I anticipated at this stage of my life, but it's a great campaign. We're getting a ton of support and momentum, and we're excited.
Here's what's stunning to me about those of you that run for state Senate. You are running for a seat representing close to 1 million people.
Correct.
There are states in this union that are smaller than 1 million.
So true.
You can't walk precincts, can you?
We will be targeting those precincts that we want to touch directly.
Okay.
But yeah, the most of it is going to be a mail campaign, a media campaign. So yeah, unfortunately.
Now, in many urban areas, even 1 million residents will be densely packed in. Mm-hmm. Is your district one of those dense districts, or is it a little spread out?
It's a little spread out.
So tell us about it.
It's from on the most northern end is Inglewood.
Okay.
And the most southern end is San Pedro, the harbor.
That's a long distance.
Long strip, and
right.
We have 6 independent cities in there, as well as LA and unincorporated
right.
county.
So to the extent you are walking or talking or whatever you're doing, what are you hearing from your constituents? What are they saying to you? What issues are on their mind?
It's a variety of issues, as we all know, the economy, affordable education, all of those things they're talking about, criminal justice reform. Those are all the things that are being touched upon.
I want to ask you about this, because I find it interesting that, look, life can always be better. But as a general proposition, California's in a decent place right now.
We are.
The economy's doing pretty well. There's no question. Certain segments are struggling. But when you look at polls, right track, wrong track polls, the numbers are upside down. Is that what you're hearing too? Are people still feeling kind of a malaise and they feel like we're on the wrong track, even though objectively we're doing not so bad?
I think at the 30,000 foot level, yes, people see us doing good. But when you get down and you drill down to the individual communities, individual households, there are people still struggling, people still unemployed, people are still looking for affordable housing, and those things we still have to deal with here in California.
And I think about your district, which in a lot of ways is a microcosm of California, because you have some nice affluent areas and some areas that are really struggling. And so I hear you loud and clear. I want to speak with you, sir, if I may, about criminal justice reform. I've known you for quite some time, and that has been a passion of yours for decades. The last time we spoke about it, maybe let's say a year and a half ago, I remember thinking to myself, Mr. Bradford, it's a fight, but nothing's going to happen. We still are kind of a tough on crime state and nation. I was wrong. I really feel as if when you look at Prop 47, which passed, redefining certain lower level possession offenses as misdemeanors, President Obama is looking at prison justice. The Republicans in the Senate are looking at it. What's happening in criminal justice reform?
Because we're realizing we're wasting a lot of money incarcerating a lot of people who we could be better served in society, and a lot of those, as you say, low line offenses that could have very well been treated through a drug program or drug courts, and we're finding out that our prisons are filled with a lot of folks who are just addicts. So people are tired of spending this money, and we realize we're better served if we can get these folks back in the mainstream and contribute.
I want to ask you about addiction, because there is no question whether someone is incarcerated as a result of a drug offense or another offense, often addiction is a common theme.
Without a doubt.
The challenge we face today is Prop 47 passes. It redefines many drug possession offenses as a misdemeanor. So what does that mean? When a prosecutor pre-Prop 47 had a drug offense before him or her, he or she could say, well, if you go to drug court, we won't charge you as a felon. They don't have that ability anymore. And so our drug courts, the population is dropping. Our drug programs have seats. So, it's an unintended consequence, but where do we go from here on that question?
I think we have to reinvest, as we constantly talk about the rehabilitation. I think it's a myth that we rehabilitate our prisoners, and we have to get them on the front end. We have to do more preventive work on the front side.
I hear you loud and clear. Absolutely. Yet we still have these folks that are not choosing to go into drug programs. Look, I'm not a prosecutor. But I'm just wondering if there's a way, can we tinker with Prop 47 so that drug court becomes more easily accessible as a prosecutorial tool?
I think with all the legislation that you've seen and I've seen, sometimes there's unintended consequences of a good deed, and I think that's part of what we're seeing with Prop 47. Yes, there's room for some tweaking and amending, and maybe those are some of the areas we look at there, because it's not a perfect law, but it has helped tremendously on reducing our prison population.
I'm sure you also know that over the last year or so, President Obama, through the federal prison system, has had certain drug offenders released from federal custody before their sentences concluded. The sense was, look, these are possession offenses, they weren't distribution offenses, and like you said, we shouldn't be wasting resources. I think about 250 of them were Californians with an October 2015 release. So that solves one issue. But are these folks receiving services?
That's what we're finding out they're not. And I did a bill 3 years ago trying to put forth a program, a pathway 30 days before being released, hooking up the parolee to all the social service programs that they need. Many of them are released with just a bus fare and $20 in their pocket, and they have to fend for themselves. So we have to do a better job at connecting them to those resources in the community.
We also know that President Obama recently looked at, I'm not sure if he issued the order, but the ban the box, is it issued? Are federal applications no longer?
I think through executive order on the federal side, that's what happened.
So what that means is that when someone applies for a job with the federal government, they don't have to at first indicate on their introductory application that they have a conviction. What do you make of that?
I think it's great. I don't know if you remember 5 years ago, I did the ban the box bill in the state of California.
And did it go?
And Arnold didn't sign it, but through executive order, he did the same thing for the state. So now as a state—
we have a ban the box.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes. So
I did not know that.
On the state level, he, through executive order, says on state applications, you no longer have to check the box. And this is key because we found out that 70% of people who check that box never get interviewed. And we want to make sure they have an opportunity to get in front of that employer and sell their skills or wares, whatever the case may be.
At the same time, President Obama did make it clear that at some point in the application process, the information needs to be divulged.
As we said in my bill, it's nothing's going to be hidden. I mean, it doesn't stop the employer from asking the question. We're just trying to get that person from not having to check the box initially, so he can at least get into the room, have the opportunity for the interview, and then through the background investigation, they'll find out whatever they need to know about that employer.
So, do you see the private sector starting to take that approach? Because in the final analysis, most jobs are private. I mean, we know the federal government has a lot of employees, as does California, as does counties, but in the final analysis, what do you think about the private sector? Do you get a sense that we're moving in that direction?
We still have to do a lot of work. That's who opposed my bill, a lot of the private sector.
Really?
And a lot of the housing organizations. They were like, hey, we want to be able to know who we're renting and putting in a house. So I understood it, but I said it's ways that you could still, we were telling landlords, you can still ask that question. So it's still work to be done there.
Okay, his name is Steve Bradford. He was a member of the California State Assembly from 2008? Nine to 2015. He is now a candidate for the California State Senate. That district includes significant portions of Los Angeles County. I want to remind you, of course, if you'd like to watch additional episodes of Charter Local Edition, you can sign on to our website, charterlocaledition.com. My name is Brad Pomerance. We are coming to you from Long Beach, California. This is Charter Local Edition.
Good job.